Muhlenberg is blessed to have a number of retired clergy in our congregation, and we're delighted to recognize 3 of them as they celebrate significant ordination anniversaries this month. Pastor John Derrick, Pastor Bill Nabers, and Pastor K. Roy Nilsen have collectively served the church for 165 years. We've invited them to share some reflections with us. First, we'll hear from Pastor John Derrick, who came to Muhlenberg as associate pastor in 1976, and then served as senior pastor from 1979 until 1991. He is pastor emeritus of Muhlenberg and brings us greetings from his quarantining in Bridgewater. He celebrates his 60th anniversary of ordination.
I appreciate this opportunity. I hadn't thought so much about the anniversary rolling around, but 60 years is a long time in ministry. Then at 91, other things come into picture, but I'm very blessed to be able to do what I'm able to do. One of my mantras is, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." But just to review a little bit, what I would like to share with you is with the phrase "open doors." And as I think about it, as I look back over my life, amazing the doors that have been opened, which couldn't have happened by accident. There was a force behind it, which is the Lord's power at work, and opening doors. And just to give you one illustration, when I was working at Virginia Beach as a waiter in one of the hotels there, one day I had naval officers come to sit at the table I was serving, and they asked me, "What are you going to do after you're here through for the summer?" So I'm waiting to be drafted. I have friends that were drafting left and right. And so they said, "Why don't you consider the Navy?" And they said, "Here's a phone number, call it." So I did that. I did go through the door, made the phone call. I said, "Come on to Washington, Pennsylvania Avenue." So I did that, and they gave both a physical and a written exam. And afterward, they called me in, and they said that "We're sorry you didn't score quite high enough on the exam. We're not going to be able to accept you." So I came back to Harrisonburg and did a little supply teaching in one of the public schools for about 6 weeks or so. And then I got a letter from the naval folks saying, "If you're interested, we have in effect lowered our standards, and now you can come on and we'll take you." So they did, and I got through OCS. Amazing, most intense academic work I've ever had, and had 3 years in the Navy during the Korean War, and had a 9-month cruise around the world. So I've gotten to see ports of call, Singapore, Hong Kong, all along the Mediterranean and so forth. So that it was a wonderful chance to see the world. But thereafter, after I got out, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I taught school for a year, and then had a chance to visit a seminary, and decided maybe I could try this for a year. If it doesn't work out, they told me come on back and we'd continue with working with you. Well, at any rate, I did that and finished, and then had a call to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and it was there that I met Carol. We were married while there. We were there for 6 years, then went to Durham. Had the experience of being there during the civil rights movement, and we were caught up walking the streets and some of that part of it, which was a stressful time. But then after 10 years there, came on to Muhlenberg and Harrisonburg, and was happy to be here, and came as an associate, and with the thought that I could step back from some of the administrative responsibilities that pastors have and do what I enjoy, which is visiting in homes and getting to see people on their turf and getting to know them. And I've sometimes advised others in the ministry when they say, "What should we strive to do while we're getting started?" And my answer is love the people. Consequently, that I did come on to Harrisonburg then in '76 and was here for 15 years, and then did some supply preaching. Went to Smith Mountain Lake for the ecumenical parish there, and consequently have had a very wonderful ministry. It's just amazing to see what the Lord can do. But opening those doors, they don't happen by accident. I'm convinced of that. And so that what I would say in conclusion is that this is quoting from Paul's letter to the Romans, the 8th chapter. And my mother taught me that verse 37, which is, we're more than conquerors through him that loved us. And I was about 7 years old trying to get that out. Well, anyhow, then follows the words from Paul that I'm convinced that nothing can separate us from the love of God, neither the past or present or things that are to come, powers or principalities, not anything on earth or heaven can separate us from God's love. And it's that separation that I would focus upon you to think about when you think about your life's journey. And your life's journey will continue by way of God having a part in that and leading you on through the valley of the shadow to new opportunities of doors being opened. So I'll leave you with that message. You've been a blessing to me. Grateful for this opportunity. Modern technology is wonderful when it works.
Next is Pastor Bill Nabers, who served as assistant pastor at Muhlenberg from 1982 through 1986. He's not quite retired yet, as he faithfully serves as pastor of St. Jacob Spaders and Trinity Lutheran, Kieseltown. His wife June is an active member at Muhlenberg, and Bill celebrates his 40th ordination anniversary this month. He brings us greetings via Zoom.
Hello to everybody at Muhlenberg. Good to converse even in this manner with all of you.
Yes. So why don't you share with us a little bit about when you first felt a call to ministry?
I think it started about senior year in high school. The congregation I was attending, grew up in the Roanoke area, was without a pastor, and they decided to have a youth member. I was actually a youth in those days, to serve on the call committee. So I got involved with that. And one of my side duties was we had the supply pastors come in, and being as we were close to Roanoke, we got all the ones that couldn't go very far. So all of them needed assistance getting through the service. We got the less mobile ones, shall we say. And so I ended up getting a robe and being given parts of the service to do, prayers, lessons, things like that. So that was it. And then being on the call committee, it was kind of interesting getting into that. And I got to go to the seminary, Lutheran Theological Southern Seminary in Columbia, South Carolina, because the person we called came out of there. And so that was a real eye-opening experience. So I think that was the point that kind of got started.
So you went to Southern, and what year did you graduate? And then where was your first call?
1980. I was ordained on June 1st, 1980 at Grace Lutheran Church in Waynesboro. And my first call was for Christ Lutheran in Radford. And I served there for 2 years before joining the staff at Muhlenberg in 1982.
And what were your first impressions of Muhlenberg?
Good ones. I had really good people to talk with and serve on the call committee. And it was a dynamic congregation, and was doing lots of things. Malcolm Wilfong was the call committee chair, so you ought to know right away that it was an interesting experience. Malcolm had a good sense of humor about things, and some other folks who are still there, some who aren't, but everybody welcomed me. I felt pretty connected right away, so yeah, pretty positive experience.
And what have been some of your highlights of the past 40 years of ministry?
How much time you got? I'll keep it brief. Serving in a variety of settings has been one of the things really neat, getting to know lots of people. Generations now of families, under the second and third generation, as it says in the Bible. I've gotten to know various places. And how in the Virginia Synod, you either go through First Norfolk or Muhlenberg at one time in your life, it seems like. The funnels, you're going to pass through one of those and have connections to, it seems like, those two congregations. So Muhlenberg was an opening to me in lots of ways. There were some good times. There were some rough times. I've been through a lot. But I think the faith of people, their openness to at least dialogue with me, even when they disagree. And so I would say it was largely positive, but it had its moments the other way too along the way, to be honest. Youth ministry, one of the things that I did at Muhlenberg when I was there, which the late Dwayne Westerman, who we just found out died today, got me involved in straight out of seminary. So then part of that for a lot of years is one of the highlights. At Muhlenberg, I really got introduced to social ministry, we would call that now, because I was as the pastor sort of in charge of those things, and we delegated out responsibilities in those days in the way we work things. And so I got to work with a variety of ecumenical partners and trying to meet the needs in the Muhlenberg community. And that was a good eye opener for me about lots of things.
Do you have any favorite Bible verses or Bible stories that are ones you keep coming back to that have been sort of a theme of your life and ministry?
There are a couple that popped to mind. Some of them people will know, like John 3:16-17. People cut off the 17. It's just as important as the 16, where it says the Son was sent not to condemn the world. The world, the cosmos, the Greek word used there. I have always been fascinated by the story of Jesus and his mother at the changing of water into wine at Cana. On many levels, that story has spoken to me a lot about how God works, how families can disagree and still get along, which happens in that story. And every time I go to it, I find something new. So I'd say that's one of my favorite passages.
And what advice would you give to pastors, younger pastors these days? What wisdom do you have to share?
Pray a lot, learn. I think one of the things that has always appealed to me about Christianity is the fact that I believe it's based on a curiosity. I think God installs in his creation a curiosity, not a superiority for any of us. And I think one of the things that's really been good for me is to try to stay curious, try to ask, that's interesting, when I disagree, rather than fly into a defense, and just be curious, because things have changed. They are changing. They will continue to change. God's love and mercy is the same throughout.
Anything else that you'd want to say to the people of Muhlenberg as we celebrate you this weekend?
I appreciate it. I appreciate the time I had there, and I've appreciated what Muhlenberg has meant to the Synod and the church and in my life. I mean, I know not things have always gone exactly as planned. It didn't never do that, but that overall the congregation has shown great faith and fortitude and endurance, tried new things, like all of us, sometimes dragging our feet, but still tried new things, tried to find out what God, to answer Dietrich Bonhoeffer's famous question, what does Jesus Christ mean for us today? I think is something I've always appreciated. People of Muhlenberg have been willing to ask and struggle with that. So I say, keep on. Even if it seems like a struggle sometimes, this congregation has made a big impact. My life, the communities, the churches. So thank you. Thank you all for that. And the opportunities, the good friendships, people I've known for a long time, know all my dirty secrets probably, and still like me. So that's great.
Finally, we hear from Pastor K. Roy Nilsen, who served as pastor of Muhlenberg from 1992 until his retirement in 1996. He is also a pastor emeritus of Muhlenberg, and we enjoyed a physically distant visit from his front porch in Edinburgh. I apologize up front for the sound quality. We've done the best we can to amplify his voice.
Well, I started my first parish, northern New Hampshire, just 60 miles south of Canada. My wife and I are New York City people, way up to New York. And I was there 5 years, and it was just falling in love with all things New England and early American. So we had adopted our furniture like that too, And then I was called down to start a mission on Long Island, where I was born. And we were there 10 years. And that was a wonderful time. I still have such good friends from Long Island, especially our secretary. And then we moved to New Jersey. And I don't know, I think I went down to Maryland at that time. Oh no, I went from New Jersey to be assistant to the first bishop, Harold Jansen, who was the Eastern District. That's the old ELC. And then we had the merger, and then I went to being the bishop of Maryland Synod in the new church. And so I hung out with those folks for a good 10 years or so. And then I had the prize. Came in the end of my ministry in Harrisonburg. I grew to love Harrisonburg very much. And most of them, people. That's what I recommend. Maybe vignettes, some people, so on, rather than any spectacular events or anything like that. The people,
Yeah. What was your first impression of Muhlenberg when you first arrived?
It was huge. Am I going to fit in here? And but then that was quickly dispelled. So many good friends. I think it was Katie Ray that greeted me, if I'm not mistaken, when I came just to visit. And the people were just so nice, down to earth. And of course, that had a reputation of being a strong congregation. So I thought there'd be plenty of people to work with, as well as for. And that indeed turned out. They still love the people at Harrisonburg.
When did you first feel called to be a pastor?
Well, that was very vivid. I was just a teenager. I think around 14. And my folks always Lutheran and had Lutheran confirmation as a tradition. And what they didn't know, when they thought I was going, I cut every time. And then the pastor came and said, "Don't you think it's time Roy begin confirmation?" The mother said, "Oh, it's been going every week." So I blew the whistle. And I started in the fall and found the pastor to be a very fine guy, and I really liked him. And toward the end of confirmation, I said, I remember I was such a person who swore a lot. And I into the pastor and said, "I don't know how to get rid of this damn swearing." To the pastor. And he said, "I see what you mean." But then we talked more, not just about the swearing, but James chapter 3 talks about the tongue and how the tongue is indicative of a person. And a couple of things happened. I was suddenly realized that there's so much in this Bible I gotta spend my time being able to what this guy's doing. And importance, more important than that, was I practiced what he told me, and it worked. And I said, wouldn't it be neat to spend my life doing this kind of thing? So that was my first indication of a desire to do ministry. And then in conversation with the pastor about what you need, college, seminary, all that stuff, it sounded good to me. So, 15 years old, I went off to college in Concordia, Minnesota. Concordia College in Minnesota. And I always had part-time jobs doing this and that, to help pay for college. I still remember the first year, my Dad sent me the check for the whole second semester. Books, board, tuition, meals, $327. Can you imagine that? In college? I'll never forget that. I saw that check and I said, oh, thanks, Dad. And, but I always got jobs, you know. I got to know some of the people in town, both at college and at seminary.
So where did you go to seminary?
Luther Seminary, St. Paul, Minnesota. At that time, that was the only seminary we had, you know. And came to merge. Well, I got my doctorate at the Philadelphia Seminary. So that was kind of fun to get to know that seminary, particularly faculty, you know.
Must have been a big change, though, from New York City to St. Paul.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh gosh. But, you know, first time I went to Minnesota, I liked to see what cows do all day, you know, and things like that. So every time a farmer friend, classmate said, want to come home with me for a weekend? I jumped at the chance. And I remember Roger Paulson, he went on to be a pastor too. But he says, come on now, take you in the barn and show you the animals. So I went in the barn and he said, would you like to bed the cows? And I said, I'll do, show me how. So I took a pitchfork and did something like this with the stuff on the ground, you know. Sure enough, I stabbed the cow in the leg. And that leg came back out and I luckily jumped out of the way. I said, Roger, I'm getting out of here. And he laughed. He said, you city kids, you know nothing about farm life. I said, you got it.
Yeah.
I'm here to learn.
Yep.
So I enjoyed the context of college and seminary and all the congregations have been. It's just every one has been different, new dimension, but always kind of rooted around getting close to people.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, always my intent was, I want to lead you to Jesus. You open to listening, you know.
To these three men, we say, well done, good and faithful servants. Congratulations on your anniversaries, and thank you for the many ways you've shared the love of Christ with us all.